Kwanzaa is an annual celebration of the African American culture that happens on December 26th through January 1st. Today, I talk with someone who knows about Kwanzaa, poet and sweetgrass basket tradition keeper Anastasia Ketchen for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Anastasia Ketchen, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I appreciate you having you back. Obviously, you are a poet here in the Low Country and a sweetgrass tradition keeper. And obviously, you are so notable in trying to make sure that a lot of the Black people know about traditions around here, including Kwanzaa. I know that today, Kwanzaa is an annual celebration of African American culture that is held from December 26th today until January 1st, culminating in a communal feast called Karumu, usually held on the sixth day. It was created by a person in an African tradition based on the African harvest festival traditions from various parts of Africa, including West and Southeast Africa. And as you know, Kwanzaa was first celebrated in 1966. Let me ask you this, Anastasia. What is the spirit of Kwanzaa today?
What is the spirit of Kwanzaa today? Well, today is Umoja, as in unity. And normally when you're greeting someone for Kwanzaa, you say Habari Gani, what's the news? And they answer back with the spirit, the principle for the day, which today would be Umoja, unity.
Right, absolutely. But let me ask you, I know it's been more than 50 years after the inception of Kwanzaa in 1966. What is the biggest difference about Kwanzaa?
Well, that's kind of a hard question, but I think from my perspective, what I believe is, I guess, just like so many other things with our culture and our community, things are different. The times are different. Technology is different. Just the world around us is. And to be, really honest, a lot of people really aren't in touch with Kwanzaa. Most of us don't celebrate Kwanzaa or understand it. I mean, I'm learning more about it myself even today. I think that when Kwanzaa came about and was introduced to us, I think here in the States, I think that we were a lot more connected as a community. We understood things, understood the harvest, understood the traditions, and it was celebrated more. I think now we're trying to, but still a lot of people aren't aware of it, don't understand it, don't necessarily believe in it. And I know for me personally, when I think of Kwanzaa, I do think of community. I really embody the principles as much as I can, and I think that if we get back to understanding the principles of Kwanzaa, we can get back to being a community, being more communal amongst each other, so that the spirit will be captured like it was before.
What more do you want to understand about Kwanzaa?
What more do I want to understand? Well, I think as I'm learning about my culture, as I'm learning about Kwanzaa, it's a part of who I am, and it's helping me understand who I am as an individual. And I think that learning about that also and understanding Kwanzaa helps me stay more connected to my ancestral lineage. So I want to know about, even when Kwanzaa first arrived in 1966, what was the mindset? What really initiated Kwanzaa? There's some thought about it, but I want to know more in depth and understand it so that maybe I can share that more and hope others can join in on the spirit of Kwanzaa.
How is the Charleston community striving for and actually maintaining unity in the family, community, the nation, and within our African American race today?
Well, I think that Charleston definitely is. I know that when I came on the scene in Charleston, my instructor, my African drum dance instructor, Mr. G.M. Mujahid, really introduced us to Kwanzaa. And what I remember most, like you mentioned, Karumbu, just coming together and having that feast in that community. And we all got together, all of the African drum and dance community came together. We celebrated, there were vendors. Of course, my favorite part was the food. But the energy that was there was so unique and so different. And it really reminded me of who we are in Charleston. And there were so many people, from our youngest to our eldest in the community. And it just made me feel once again that I was a part of more and a part of something. And I think that's what Charleston is really trying to do and striving for, and consistently does. Even in spite of the pandemic, we're still trying to come together to embody the principles of Kwanzaa and share it with community.
How have you defined yourself, named yourself, create for yourself, and speak for yourself?
Hmm. So how have I defined myself? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you repeat that for me?
Yeah, how have you, Anastasia, defined yourself, named yourself, create yourself, and speak for yourself, knowing what you know now about Kwanzaa?
Wow, that's a really good question. Well, I will say the first thing to answer all of that would be it's still a process. I am still ever evolving. And I think that as I have learned, well, for example, on Wednesday doing Ujama, which is cooperative economics, I'm going to be with Elder Carly Town at Yenichurin House, and we are going to be celebrating and showing examples of what cooperative economics looks like. And I've done that with her for the last couple of years, and I feel like I really embody that now in my life, and I teach it to my child. And for me, a part of who I am is family, is community, and is about passing it on. Just like being a sweetgrass traditions keeper, that's a part of me, and it's a reminder in Kwanzaa that I need to share that. This is something within me. This is something that needs to stay in my community. And for me to, as I'm getting older, pass on to our youth because they're the ones that's going to keep it going. So each principle, from unity to cooperative economics to faith to really just every principle, I feel like I touch on and try to bring it into my life, and it helps define who I am and helps me to have a wider perspective on things and more of a appreciation for the life that I'm given.
Yes, ma'am. Speaking of which, unity, self-determination, collective work, and responsibility, cooperative economics, purpose, creativity, and faith. Let me ask you, which one of those principles finds you?
Hmm. Which one of those principles? Well, they all kind of define who I am. They're all a piece of me and help me to strive to be better. I think that if I looked at any of them in particular, self-determination is definitely one of them. I've gone through so much and continue to, and I feel like I continue to grow. And if it wasn't for self-determination, that in a way I feel like, especially spiritually, that I would be defeated. Whether it's from physical, mental, emotional health, those things, financial freedom, because, with our government and just the way things are set up, it's really hard to produce financially for your family here in America. So that self-determination, the creativity that I embody and try to use to continue pursuing myself as an artist and share that with my community and live off of that is very necessary. So self-determination is something and purpose, I feel like they go hand in hand. I think I embody that in my life, and it really helps. I relate. It resonates with me very much.
What is your purpose with self-determination?
My purpose. So at this point in my life, I feel that my purpose, number one, is to be as the best mother that I can to my child, and to create a space for her, a world that I would like to see through her eyes. I want to create a space where she can thrive, where she can understand and discover her purpose. And I don't want to live forward just through my child. I feel like my purpose is really guiding her so she can do that for herself. But also, I feel like when it comes to my family and community, my purpose is also trying to define a space, what I can do to help be a part of our community, to help my community thrive and heal and grow. If I'm going to be in a community, I need to be able to contribute in some aspects. So carrying on the traditions in my family, spreading the knowledge, using my artistry to help educate our community. And one of the biggest things for me that I do is create a space that allows healing.
Speaking of which one of those principles have actually allowed this community, Charleston community, to heal?
So faith, I would definitely stay near. I think that especially in the South and especially in Charleston, we hold on to our faith faith. Our faith keeps us going. Our faith is something that it's our pride, our joy. It gives us our purpose. And with a lack of faith, when you lack that, I feel like you sort of lose yourself and you don't feel like there's anything left for you or any purpose. So I really think that Charleston holds on to and thrives on faith.
Which principles would you add to the 7 principles that really we need and that we're lacking here in Charleston?
Mm. Well, that's a really good question. So I think that we really need to I don't even know if you would call it a principle, but I think the concept of Sankofa, which is somewhat inside of our principles, but I think Sankofa is something very important. We got to remember who we are so we understand where we must go and go back and fetch some of those things like strength that our ancestors used, being resilient, being tactful, and really, even though we have community in the principles, I think we got to learn what that means, what that looks like, and what we want it to be.
What do you want it to be right now, looking in your crystal ball?
I wish that, number one, we're in a space now where if you were to walk outside your home, especially if you're in a community where you're in an apartment or whatever it may be, when you're connected to others, we don't know our neighbors. Not everybody, when I was younger, I remember times where my mom could leave a key at home, and we know that our cousins or our neighbors, whoever was around us, will be there. So if I needed to come home and mom wasn't home just from work just yet, they could say, all right, go ahead, baby. It's 4 o'clock. We know what time it is. And we're looking at it. I knew somebody was always going to be present. I needed help. I knew where it was coming from. We lost power. Hurricane Hugo was a big example of that. When Hurricane Hugo hit, a lot of people they didn't have water. We lost power. But what we could do was go from house to house and we were eating out each other's pot. You know what I'm saying? Like that's missing so much. And I think I would like to see us come back to that. I would like to see us really understand that our people have value in this world, value ourselves, and really start using the gifts that we have. I think right now we've got so much against us, like the school to prison pipeline system that really messes with our minds. I think that we need to get back to, I want our community to understand that we can thrive and survive without someone else handing us out our money and our finances. I would like to see us take control and get our banks back together, our schools back together, and get back to who we are.
And I want to talk about cooperative economics in just a second, but let me ask you, how do you value yourself?
How do I value myself? Well, in valuing myself, number one, I think it starts with self-love. I think that is very important. There's been times where I have not truly loved myself, where I was so busy looking and trying to live for somebody else or meet somebody else's expectations. And now I feel like by understanding that I am important, I'm beautiful from the inside out, and I am gifted, and I do have a purpose, that's placing value on myself. So that self-love in turn builds my self-confidence. And then understanding that because I know that I have been given purpose, because God has put me here for something, I know that that is valuable. I know that I wouldn't be here if I did not hold any value. So by understanding that, I feel like I value myself and what I have to offer.
And thank God in Jesus you were here. But let me ask you, obviously you're a mom, you're an entrepreneur, you're doing a whole lot for this community, but who's guiding you?
You said, but who's
guiding you?
Who's guiding me? Well, I first say God is definitely guiding me. I try to pray or meditate on God a lot and ask. Sometimes I think we ask and we're listening for a loud voice to answer back, which I think would scare most of us. But I think sometimes just that little whisper, that feeling that we get, is God saying, hey, go left, go right, this is where I want you to go. And sometimes he comes through somebody else, even the voice of a child, so I think God definitely guides me in things that I do. And then I have a support system like my sister, who really, I love her because she's honest. She will let me know if something is just not good or it's not working. She's gonna give me that honesty. It might hurt a little sometimes, but that support system that I have from her, that genuine love, that definitely helps guide me as well.
Where is the support system here in Charleston's Black community?
Hmm. I don't think there's just one answer for that. I know that, for example, with our elders, like Elder Carly Town, who consistently are giving back to the community, and she's creating a space within a Sharon house and making sure that we have a place to go where we can continue to grow and understand our Gullah Geechee culture, and a space where artists can come and be free and be themselves, and share and indulge in cooperative economics. I believe those are strong support systems. I believe that most of our churches, and I say most of our churches because our churches don't always do our community like they should be. You know, once upon a time they will open their doors and you can go to a church 7 days a week. Now most of them are only open for business on Sunday. You know, but then you can find support even in your barbershops, venting and talking. And I've sat in a barbershop plenty of times, like Gerald's shop, and I would sit there and there was support there. I could talk to him. I could be honest with him. I could confide in him. And, you know, the support is there. The support is also in our homes, but we just have to seek it out.
Who's being honest with the African Americans here in Charleston?
Is it being honest with African Americans in Charleston? I'm sorry, you're breaking up just a little bit.
Yes, ma'am. Exactly right. Yes, ma'am.
Mhm. So, how to be honest with them? Is that the question?
No, ma'am. Who is being honest with the African Americans in Charleston?
Who is being honest? Ooh, wow. Um, I think we got a lot of people that are out in these streets that don't always get the credit. You've got artists that are out here consistently, like Georgia Nubia is a genuine individual, Christine Washington, who's another artist that's out there. You do have, like I mentioned, Elder Carly Town, the Gullah Geechee Nation. But if you're looking for one answer and you're looking for somebody politically to say is being totally honest, I would say number one, remember when they say that some things like church and government should not be, one. It's the same thing with community. I think sometimes we got to remember that when someone's in political positions, that sometimes they have to succumb to other things in order to gain your trust and to meet to get what they're striving for. So we can't look for a leader like that. We got to look at the people that are consistently working out and really. There's also a lot of faces that look like us that aren't so honest. I think you gotta, when you think about who's being honest with African Americans in our community, we gotta start listening to ourselves and that little voice in the back of our head that's telling us, giving us that spirit of discernment, saying, "Nah, that's not right." There's really not just one person, but there are those who consistently show up that I think you can rely on.
Who are these people that are coming to this to that particular community that are actually succumbing to certain things?
So, let's see. I'm trying to be politically correct, and I will say that people that are coming to our communities, those wolves in sheep's clothing, a lot of times they're coming with, those are those individuals that are coming with a vision or mission to help you without asking you what you need. They're the ones that will come and sit in your community meetings or your gatherings. They're the ones that are quick to rally around a cause that's valid in the moment. And seems like it's a great opportunity to be in the midst of the camera, but once that phase is out, they're the ones that walk away and don't come back. You have a lot of folks that come into your community like that, and they're not always just the politicians. They're also the ones that call you sister and brother and wear a Black Lives Matter shirt today, but tomorrow they take it off and they're supporting somebody else. So those are the ones that you really have to be mindful of, the ones patting you on your back, and then they turn around and you realize that they're really not for you.
How do you mentally deal with that?
Mentally, I think it's exhausting. I think mentally the way to deal with that is number one, sometimes you can't do it by yourself. Talking to others that might have had a similar experience, being honest with each other in your communities and in your home with your children so that they understand what to look for, what qualities to value in people so that they know who not to trust. But also, I think when it comes to anything mentally, it's very important to understand that we do have professionals that are qualified that help us deal with traumas. And sometimes we do need to seek them out. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
And let me turn over to cooperative economics. Uh, how do you actively build a network of Black-owned cooperatives, that is, that will seek to develop an economic structure that can flourish outside of the traditional capitalist structure that we have right now?
Well, I think it starts with an idea. I think it starts with that self-determination and somebody to say, you know what, I'm going to take on this task. I want us to organize. And I think that when you go to spaces that we create, like at Yen Insurance House, when Elder Carly Town gets vendors and people to come out, I think that as we network amongst each other and decide, you know what, we're going to come out here and consistently do this, and this is how we want to build, and that's a space where you can share ideas. I've been a part of these events, and I've witnessed that. I've witnessed people exchanging their cards. I've witnessed people saying, you know what, we've got these other events that we can go to, or we can create this other spaces. And I think it starts with that. I think it starts with the idea. It starts with the communication, and it starts with consistency. So going to those smaller, it's not small. I think if we're looking to just go out and have this big grand scale thing and think that everything is just going to rise from there, I think that's not entirely true. But when you go to those smaller things and build and really network, I think that's where a space is created and we really start building and showing cooperative economics.
And in what way will cooperative business structures eliminate that hierarchical employment dynamics that you see locally?
Well, they got to come together. Once upon a time, Spring Street was a prime example of that, where it was all Black businesses. And, if somebody, for example, needed flowers for a funeral, they would come across the street and grow roses. You had spaces where sometimes if you needed some milk, you knew where to come, what restaurants to go to, but they supported one another, and that's where they stayed. The money stays in the community. So once you build those things, you understand the needs of the community, you build these businesses, but you stay within them. You can't say build these things and then you outsource and not support the community. You can't go outside of the community and say, I'm only going to go to Walmart to go get these things because it's mass production. You actually got to stay inside and keep the money in house. Now, don't get me wrong, I go to my Walmart and stuff right now, but if I had a space where it was just our Black community and I can consistently thrive off of that, I would absolutely do that because I think it's a need.
Now, in my research, there's practically 50 million African American people in the United States, and I believe African American consumers spend at least more than $1 trillion a year. Why do you think there's little to show for all of that buying power?
Well, I think that number one, there's little to show because we're focused on a materialistic aspect. If we had And I think that there's little to show for that because we're not in a position where we can put our money to the side and actually grow and flourish. We can't afford, we can buy our clothes today, but I have to make a choice sometimes. Am I going to eat today, or am I going to pay my rent? Am I going to eat today, or am I going to buy my child some new shoes? Am I going to eat today, or am I going to make sure that I pay this bill? And how long can I get? There's always something, else lurking over our mind. It seems that people just can't get out of debt. Debt is something that exists over us, and that credit that exists and takes hold and controls our lives. So I think that there's little to show because there seems to not be a space or opportunities for us really to grow financially, as long as that we're inside this big, machine or network, this money game that exists. I don't even feel like the middle class exists anymore. You're either upper class or lower class. You're either rich or you're poor. And those who are already born into the money and have the money are keeping the money. So we can go shopping and spend all the money that we want. At the end of the day, even if we meet our basic needs, where's the rest of it? Even these jobs, I think a big problem, I have this conversation almost a daily basis with my sister, and it's about the fact that the majority of our states now have a space where everything, the work, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, at will states. Your jobs aren't guaranteed even. You can't go to work and know that, oh, I'm going to be here tomorrow, because your job's aren't guaranteed. You don't have a pension plan like you might have once upon a time, and everything is so temporary. And then if you do go and get a higher education, a continued education, which is wonderful, you spend the rest of your life paying for it. So if you're always in debt, how are you going to have anything to show?
And I know this might be a redundant question, Anastasia, but how do you control the economics in this particular community?
Well, number one, you got to build that community first. And then you can start with a plan and start controlling that network. But you're going to have everything you need, including your own banks, your own hospitals, your own schools. You have to have your own. And you'd have to establish your own form. I know that there's a community right now in Georgia, and in unincorporated area. It was I think it was 9 families, Black African American families, that decided to start and build their own community where we have a safe haven. So I think they're a prime example of how to begin building community and use cooperative economics and all the principles of Kwanzaa to really thrive and establish. I'm not sure how they're doing right now, but I think it's a wonderful idea. And if we all invest in something like that, then we'll see some growth and have something to show for it.
How has Kwanzaa become, I hate to say this, commercialized?
Oh, like everything else, I think we are commercialized in general. Our ideas, our thoughts, our art, everything is commercialized. I know that Kwanzaa, it's another one of those things where you only see it pop up when there's T-shirts. I hear more, for lack of better words, as we say it, bakras, talking about, and by bakra I mean like individuals that are, talking about Kwanzaa and selling our things more than we are, I think that it's become so gimmicky, and we buy into that, so I don't know. I don't see what part of our culture has not become commercialized.
Well, then do you resist the commercialization of Kwanzaa?
How do you resist it?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, coming to the people directly. Instead of going to some big store like Walmart, for example, or someplace like that, invest in the people that are actually creating things in Kwanzaa. Go and learn and educate yourself about what Kwanzaa is, where it came from, what are the principles. I think you have to come to the people, to us, come into our communities and actually learn and understand that. And I think that's something we got to do and share with each other, not just to the rest of the world.
Why is Kwanzaa an African-inspired but an American-invented holiday?
Why? The way I see it and think about it is it's another way to directly connect to our African roots. I think that is an important connection to make and understand that these traditions, these things that we want to stay connected to, because we are Americans, right? We are here, but we're still different. There's still something special, unique to us. And I think it's another way, like I mentioned, Sankofa, to embody that and understand that there was something before us. We have to go back and fetch it and bring it into fruition.
How does Kwanzaa improve self-esteem?
How does it improve self-esteem? I think that listening to things and being reminded constantly about the self-determination, about the support that you have, about your faith. I think that someone instilling those values in you and trying to live those each day helps really build your self-esteem. I think you have to pour into yourself and put those ideals in you for you to really build and grow. But when I've been a part of Kwanzaa, I've seen us come together as a community, and really I love, there's been many times where we have a ceremony, and especially in the Kwanzaa, where we have the children come to the table and we talk to the children. The children is such an important part of Kwanzaa, because I think we focus on making sure they understand that they're amazing individuals, that they are important, that they are our future. And I see that happening through Kwanzaa constantly, and the children understanding that their voice is so powerful and important. And with Kwanzaa, we have a space with our cooperative economics where we can bring our talents, our arts, and the things that we feel that we cannot thrive off of all the time. We have that space to do that. And I think that exchange, allowing that, also allows people to creatively express themselves freely and understand that even the product that comes from something within them has quality, and that helps build your self-esteem as well.
How do you creatively express yourself 5, 10 years from now?
Creatively express myself 5, 10 years from now. Well, um, 5 to 10 years from now, I hope that what I'm doing is I'm working on building my own space. I don't want to speak too much into it. I do believe in, I've learned my lesson with sharing way too much. But I have a vision that God has granted me, and I see myself in 5 to 10 years having my own space, my own school structure, so to speak, that allows all those things that have been removed from the school system, our art, all the things that we thrive off of, hands-on, the trades that we had in schools. Creating and having that space for others to thrive. And I think by leading by example, especially with theater, theater is something I live in. I think by sharing and educating people even through theater, I think that allows me to creatively express myself 5 to 10 years from now.
Wow. And what's that one principle from Kwanzaa that we all can practice throughout the entire year?
All of them, really. Definitely all of them. But I think we do need to focus on our first principle, and that's moja, that's unity. I think that we got to remember that we can't do it all by ourselves. And, one of the things that my father used to say, my great grandfather used to say, women in my family constantly remind me of, is that these fingers separately may be powerful, but a closed fist is very strong and firm. And that's what I think of when I think about emotion. I think about unity, is that we come together. There is strength and power in numbers and knowledge. And what I don't have, you may, and vice versa. I think about that circle. A circle is so important because even just physically thinking about the fact that you got my back and I got yours, because literally I can see what's behind you, you can see what's behind me, and just that whole circle of protection and that unity that we create. I think that's important. We need to practice on a daily basis, especially in our household, united with your children.
Anastasia Ketchen, thank you so much for your time, and again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome.